So as we see on the screen, we are starting a new series in the book of Ruth. Ruth takes place in the era of the Judges, which is arguably the worst era of Israel's history. There was moral and spiritual collapse everywhere. So very chaotic. But it wasn't just that. Economically, things were in shambles too. There was no food because of a famine. And in the ancient world, this was not just an economic problem, but it was a theological indicator that something was deeply wrong. The land was supposed to be blessed if Israel stayed faithful to Yahweh. So the fact that the crops are failing was a sign of God's dissatisfaction. So in chapter 1, we're introduced to a family. Okay? Elimelech and his wife Naomi, they have 2 sons. Because of the famine, they moved to Moab. Now, the sons, they end up marrying Moabite women, which was discouraged because of their commitments to other gods like Molech. And then absolute tragedy strikes. Elimelech, the patriarch of the family, dies. And then the 2 sons also die. But they die without children. Now, many of us would be like, oh, what's the big deal? That's sad, but what's the big deal about that? Dying without children. Now, in the ancient world, this is a very big deal. Huge. A very big deal in the ancient world, dominated by men. It wasn't just personal heartbreak. It also meant no inheritance. It also meant no economic security. It also meant no social standing. So they're in big trouble. It's like worst case scenario. Naomi is also very old. She's super old, past the age of remarriage and having children. She can't go back to her parents because they're almost certainly dead. So nothing is going right. Everything is going wrong. All she has left is literally her 2 daughter-in-laws. Her 2 daughter-in-laws, Ruth and Orpah. And they're in a similar position too. They just lost their husbands. They have no kids too. So this is awful. So our Bible passage today is about how can we respond to suffering? How can we respond to trouble? How can we respond to the hardships that are coming to our lives? Every single one of us inevitably will experience some sort of suffering. If you have not yet suffered, it is coming. And I know that sounds very sad and, oh, you're discouraging me and stuff, but it is coming. We're not going to sugarcoat it, but suffering is coming. Hardships are coming in this broken world. It's going to happen. But we have a choice on how we respond to it. So in our passage, we have 2 sufferers, okay? We have Naomi and we have Ruth. I am not going to concentrate on Orpah, okay? She's not really a main character, so we're just going to leave her, let her be. So we're going to concentrate on those 2, and both of them respond differently. Respond differently to suffering. They respond differently to their circumstances. So right now we're going to look at Naomi first, okay? We're looking at Naomi first. Now in verse 6, Naomi hears the famine back home is over. It's done. And she decides to go back to Bethlehem. At least she can go back. She can receive some charity, okay? It's the best thing to do. But her daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth, they want to go back with her too. Like, we want to go with you. But Naomi's like, oh, no way, Jose, okay? Let's read verse 11. This is what she said. Naomi said, return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? So Naomi is adamant. She's like, no, go back to your mothers. Get out of here. Go back to your mothers. You're still young. You can remarry. You can have a life. There's nothing for you with me. If you follow me, you're essentially signing up for poverty. You're essentially signing up to be this foreigner in a foreign land. You're going to be a widow. It's just not a good idea. And then she says the other devastating reason why they shouldn't go with her. Verse 13, let's read it. She says this, no, my daughters, it is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has turned against me. When I was in junior high, I had a friend, and I was trying to convince him about God, and I was like trying to invite him to my youth group. But my friend, he grew up in a broken home. And he told me, and he really thought that God was out to get him. That God was specifically targeting him. That it was so painful for him, he refused to believe that this kind of God would exist. So in his mind, he doesn't even exist. And he kept telling me this, if God is real, if there is a God that loves me, then my family wouldn't be broken up. How? How could a loving, good God let this happen to me? And I was in junior high. And little me, well, I'm still little, but little me did not. I didn't know what to say. I didn't have a response to that. All I could see was the pain in his eyes. You know, over the years, I've learned, talking to people going through suffering, going through hard times, I've learned that sometimes, and many times, in moments like that, the best thing to do is to just listen. Just listen, let them vent, let them cry out, let them say their true feelings and thoughts. That it's better to just listen than to, try to provide an answer of like, why this happened, why this and that. Naomi is in a similar spot as my friend. She's like, you know the other reason? You know the other reason why you shouldn't come with me, Orpah and Ruth? You know why? Because God is against me. And if you're connected to me, he'll be against you too. And some might say, oh, Naomi, you're over-exaggerating, babe. Like, come on, don't worry, it will be okay. But she's not exaggerating for effect. She's not exaggerating for effect. She genuinely believes this. And some of you right now believe that right now. And I get it. She just watched her husband die. She just watched not one, but two sons die on foreign soil. I don't blame her for feeling like Yahweh is personally targeting her. It's pretty messed up. So in her mind, it's better for Ruth and Orpah to just go home. Just go home. And Orpah does. She kisses her goodbye. She goes back home. Later in the chapter, Naomi and Ruth, and more on Ruth later, they arrive in Bethlehem. And verse 20, Naomi's pain goes to like another level. She changes her name. Let's read it in verse 20. This is what she says. They arrive in Bethlehem, and she tells the people there, don't call me Naomi. It's in the text, verse 20. Don't call me Naomi, she told them. Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why? Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me. Isn't that crazy? To just change your name? As if I was going through a hard time and I changed my name. And the guys call me Ross. Like, would you be like, whoa, things are, well, David ain't playing now. He just changed his name. She changes her name. And when you see it, she's like, the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought misfortune upon me. You could just feel the pain in her words. It's so raw. It's so honest. It's almost like she's filing charges against God. It's as if she brought God into a courtroom and she's filing charges against him. And the word she uses has a legal flavor to it. That she's not just complaining. She's not just complaining, she's making an accusation. God did this to me. And the crazy thing, the text doesn't condemn her for having those feelings. I remember growing up, and I told my mom, I'm mad at God. I told my mother and I told my mom, like, I'm so mad at God. And she looked at me and said, no. You're not allowed to be mad at God. I'm like, well, why not? And she's like, because you just can't. And that's what Filipino mothers do. They always just say, because you just can't. The problem is, the Bible is filled with Bible heroes who would tell God that they're mad at him. When my aunt lost her 8-month-old baby, and I've shared this before, but I just feel it's good to go revisit it. When my aunt lost her 8-month-old baby, at the burial site, when we were burying that small coffin, she was crying and yelling. But she wasn't crying at the people around her. She wasn't crying or yelling at her husband. She was looking up at the sky. And she was yelling at God. And she was stomping her feet. And she's stomping her feet. And there's tears falling from her face. She's wailing. And she's saying, God, I'm mad at you. And when I saw that, and it sticks with me, it's like a core memory. Like little me didn't know. Little me didn't know that you can talk to God that way. We have enormous space to bring to God in prayer our deeply honest thoughts, our deep feelings. The Psalms, if you read it, are filled with prayers of grief. Job, Jeremiah, all these people that we look up to and we're like, wow, look at them. They also bring their honest feelings before God in prayer. There's a long tradition in Scripture of people bringing their grief, bringing their anger directly to God without cleaning it up first. It's possible to hold on to honesty in one hand and truth and hope in the other. And holding those two things in tension. You can hold it both at the same time. Many of the Psalms do a great job of doing this. So it's good to be honest. It's great. But we have to be careful too. Sometimes in our pain, we can be honest, but then do the wrong thing. Like Naomi, as we know, she's in a state of suffering, okay? Very big state of suffering. But there were moments where her pain also genuinely distorted what she can see. In verse 15, she sends Orpah away, okay? She sends her back, and it makes sense, right? Go back. You'll probably find a husband there. You'll probably be taken care of. But it makes sense. Makes sense for sure in the short term. But look at verse 15. She said, look, said Naomi, your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her. So in the short term, okay, it looks good, but it also meant going back to her gods, which is not good for her spiritually in the long term, which isn't good for her spiritually too. When I was younger, there was an influential Christian pastor, author, that I liked, and I read his book. His name is Joshua Harris. And he wrote this famous dating book. Because back then I'm like, I want a girlfriend. So I'm like, oh my God, it's a Christian book. So I read it. It's called I Kissed Dating Goodbye. Very famous book. If you were born in the 90s and lived this, it was really popular. Now, in 2015, his church that he was serving at, some pastors there were embroiled in controversies with abuse claims and stuff. Not him, but other pastors. So he resigned. And then this book right here, started to receive backlash. People were saying, oh God, this book caused me such irreparable harm. All the promises it made in there. I did everything this book said. And then people were completely jaded. And it really hurt them and stuff like that. There's a whole documentary about it. Okay? I survived, I kissed dating goodbye. And I think all that backlash, all those bad experiences made him jaded. That all these painful moments caused him to start questioning his faith. And he deconstructed, as some would say. And in 2019, he announced that he was no longer a Christian. That he was leaving, he was giving up on it completely. He's gone. There are lots of stories like this. There's a movement, they're called ex-evangelicals and stuff. People who have been hurt by the church, they've been hurt by Christians, they feel like they've been hurt by God, become jaded and disenchanted with God and with the church. I read some are now they're literally trying to encourage others to leave with them. Just come with me, leave that faith too. And there's part of me is man, it sucks. It sucks that the church failed them in those ways. It sucks that they're enduring that type of pain. Like I said in my last sermon, the church should be a place where there's grace, there's honesty, where we carry each other's burdens. We carry each other's burdens with a burden-carrying love. And the church at its best can be this. But many times it's not. And I feel for them, for the pain that they've experienced. When you look at Naomi, and I said this before, the text does not criticize her for feeling bitter. It doesn't criticize her for feeling hurt. So it's good to be honest. Honest if the church has hurt you, hurt others. But at the same time, I also think suffering that causes you to give up, suffering that causes you to give up completely, on Jesus, I don't think it's good either. So while it's good to have one hand open with honesty, we also need the other hand open, holding onto truth and hope. And I think that's what Naomi gets wrong here. Naomi became too absorbed in her pain. She became too absorbed in her wound that she literally could not see the gift beside her, which was Ruth. Later on, we're going to read about her, literally saved her life. But this isn't unique to Naomi. That's just what suffering does to people. It narrows everything down to pain. And I understand. It's so hard. But one of the quiet arguments this book is making is that there's a difference between suffering honestly, which is faithful, Naomi does this at times, and suffering with your eyes and hands closed. Your eyes and hands closed that you're unable to see, or maybe you refuse to see the full picture of what God is doing around you. But surprisingly, this is not the case with Ruth. Let's look at Ruth now, okay? She's also suffering. She just lost a husband. But she suffers with eyes and hands open. And perhaps this is the better way to suffer. So let's see how Ruth responds. So Orpah leaves, okay? Orpah leaves, but Ruth refuses to go home. Let's go to verse 16 to 18. But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay." Where do you hear that from? It's a Chris Tomlin song. No one? It is. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. This is a crazy thing to say. That Ruth commits everything to stay with her mother-in-law. But look at what it's going to cost her to do that. She's leaving her country, her culture, her religion. This would mean losing your safety net. This would affect you economically. You would be at a disadvantage if you joined Naomi's people and her God. And remember, she's doing this after Naomi just told them that God might be against you. That God is going to be against you and me if you do this. Let's camp here for a moment, okay? Let's set our tent here for a second. Ruth's only picture of Yahweh is coming from Naomi. Naomi is grieving. Naomi is bitter. She's convinced God hates her. She's convinced that God is out to get her. It's a distorted view of God. Yet, she's like, yeah, I want that God. I want that. And there's a part of me that wonders how exciting it would be when she meets the real Yahweh. But nonetheless, she believes whatever is behind this woman is worth that kind of cost. It's worth that cost. In Mark 12, Jesus tells this story about a poor widow putting her last 2 coins in the temple offering. Now, the point wasn't the amount. The point was what it cost her. She gave from nothing. She gave from nothing. And that's exactly what Ruth is doing here. She's not giving from a surplus. She's not making a low-risk decision here. She's laying down everything. Everything. She chose to be courageous. She chose to show courage to face the storm, to face the unknown, instead of being comfortable. And maybe, that's how we should look at suffering. Maybe that's how we should look at trouble and hardship. We could look at it like Naomi / Mara, where you become bitter. Or you can look at it honestly, but with hope. Faith often looks unreasonable to people whose only goal is to survive. Faith often looks unreasonable to people whose only goal is to survive. If that's your goal, then yeah, of course you'll be fixated on your circumstances. Of course you will refuse. You will refuse to see the full picture, the whole story. But if you choose to see the whole picture, the whole painting, the whole picture, with Jesus and his promises in mind, it will give you hope. It will give you the resources and the courage to face your storm. And I believe this is what Ruth did. Ruth used faith to see something beyond the surface. She saw something worth holding on to. And maybe that's what you need to do today. Maybe that's what you need to do in the storm, the trouble, the hardships that you're enduring today. And I know it's hard. I get it. I know it's hard. But we can't let pain and fear become the lens you use to see the world. Keep staying faithful. Keep staying committed to God. Why? Because there's hope. There's hope. I want to conclude with how the chapter ends. And it ends with just one quiet line. It's not very profound. It's not like, oh, give me goosebumps. It's just very quiet. Ends with a quiet line. And verse 22 says this: So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. And that's it. It's like, oh. Naomi and Ruth arrive as the barley harvest is beginning. That's it. There's no dramatic, oh, the angel came. There's no dramatic, oh, wow, look at that. Nothing. Just timing. Just timing. But the timing is everything. The fields are full. The rain came. The provision is already there, already waiting for him. The famine. The famine is over. God hasn't said a word this whole chapter. God hasn't said a word this whole chapter. Not a peep. Not even a whisper. He doesn't say anything. That could be the whole book in one image, God working ahead of people who can't yet see him working. That God has been moving this whole time through the famine ending, through Ruth's loyalty, through the harvest already being in the ground when they arrive. I don't know where you're at. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what hardships you're enduring now, what kind of suffering. Maybe you've heard some bad news this week. I don't know. But there is always hope. There is always hope. Trust. Trust in the one who's already working ahead of you. Cling to his promises. And remember, one day, Jesus promises he's going to redeem and restore all things. And he showed us. He's already showed us a glimpse of that. He's already showed us that this is the future, that everything's going to be okay. He showed us this when he died on the cross and when he rose again. That everything is going to be okay.